Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates.
Hi, welcome back to Court Reporter with Stovall and Associates. I'm your host, Mike Oglinski. This is our second segment with the Republican candidate for the Nevada Attorney General, Travis Barrick. Thanks again for being on tonight. We actually were just talking in the commercial break that you actually have some experience working in the public sector.
That's true. While I was in San Francisco and in law school, I clerked at the Port of San Francisco for about a year and the city attorney's office for the construction litigation team for about 6 months, and I was also a certified law clerk for the district attorney of San Mateo County. So all combined, pretty close to 2 years of semi-full-time service, or a lot of part-time service in the public sector, in public agencies, in legal departments in public agencies.
Right. Well, that's very applicable for what you're going to be doing.
That's right.
Well, and I'm not going to pretend like I know every function of the Attorney General's office, so I would have to assume our viewing public could probably take a little reminder on it too. So the Attorney General's office, first thing is, why you're running, and what do you see as far as the main functions of the office?
Well, the main functions of the office are to be the lawyer for the state and the people. And the incumbent right now, I would say, is more interested in representing just the state government and has kind of lost the compass as far as representing the people of the state. And that part of that's in the culture of the office itself and its attitude towards the citizens of the state.
The culture in the office. Now, I would have to assume that the Attorney General is mainly responsible for the corporate culture, or say, quote-unquote, corporate culture of the office. Detail, like what do you mean as far as it's not part of the culture there?
An example is a guy up in Washoe County who was going to run for state school board, and he contacted the Secretary of State's office to make sure that he was filing in the right office. And the Secretary of State said, "We're busy, you're on your own." So he picked the district that he thought he was in. He went ahead and filed to run for office. One of his opponents challenged his candidacy on the basis of his residency. It was referred to the Attorney General's office, and they sued him. And they served him papers, on his front porch in front of his little girl or whatever, and took him to court and wouldn't talk to him. They said, "You got to go get a lawyer." And in the end, when it finally came before the judge agreed with the Attorney General's office that yes, he had filed in the wrong district and struck his name from the ballot, and the AG's office jumped up and wanted their legal fees back. And the judge was aghast, said, "You've got to be kidding me. You could have solved this with a phone call, and instead you sue this guy and drag him through the grinder as if it's no big deal for an average citizen to get sued by the state of Nevada." And that attitude has been repeated time and time again, in the stories that I get.
Well, that's an interesting point, or an interesting story, I should say. In fact, I know that in some of your literature, as far as things that you're running on, you had actually pointed out that the current sitting Attorney General had some real blaring issues that you wanted to look and, that you wanted to discuss with people. One of them, obviously, being the Krolicki incident. Could you give people some background about what had happened and your take on it?
Attorney General Masto filed a complaint against Brian Krolicki alleging mismanagement of the Millennium Scholarship Fund. The timing was, let's just say, it doesn't seem that she used very much sophistication, because either she thought nobody was going to notice, or that it looked like a hack job for Mr. Reed, or she did a very lousy job of controlling the image of it being a hack job. In either event, the charges were laughed out of court, and Brian Krolicki was exonerated, but it drained him as a human being, and it was an abuse of power. And the word on the streets is that lawsuit was launched shortly after he made it known that he was thinking for running for Senate.
Right.
So that was the perception is that it was a political hack job, and it was very poorly managed either way. I'm not sure which is worse, whether she didn't know that it was going to look like a hack job, or she knew it was going to look like a hack job and decided to proceed anyway and not do a very good job of managing it.
Well, and I think that if I can, I would add a third opinion on that. I've heard from a lot of people in the legal community that they felt like that also kind of removed the teeth from the AG's office, because they had to tread so lightly after that incident became public.
Well, they should be embarrassed. It was an embarrassment to the office and the state.
Another thing that you had mentioned as far as under her administration, not prosecuting Bob Lux, $160,000, let's just say, ethical lapse.
Yes.
Also, some background about that.
Mr. Lux was the original and only executive director of the Nevada Commission on Nuclear Waste, which was basically a commission designed to stop Yucca Mountain. And so his in the decade that Mr. Lux was managing that office, they were generally successful in stopping or slowing down the Yucca Mountain project, which I support wholeheartedly. And at some point, several staffers quit and left the office, and apparently Mr. Lux took their salary and divvied it up amongst himself and the remaining employees. And rather than prosecute him for that, the AG's office stood on the side and allowed him to proceed to settling that by resigning. But at some point, the word is that the AG's office actually spent money in his defense as well. So the facts and figures of that are all out in the press, but the point of the story is that it was apparent that the current Attorney General, Ms. Masto, was protecting somebody in Harry Reid's camp.
Well, we have another commercial break that we come upon. We'll finish up talking about some of these issues. We'll also go into some of your platform, and we'll cap off the interview to see if there's anything else it's important for the voters to hear about. Okay?
Thanks.
All right. So we'll be right back after the segment.
Court reporter with Stovall and Associates.